to Drinks with the Bees Happy Hour edition. This is our first ever Boozy Afternoon Tea gathering. We haven't done a Saturday afternoon, so I'm kind of excited. Um, and it's perfect because this is also our first historical romance happy hour. I'm Becky from bookcaseandcoffee.com, and with me today is Katie, or some of you might know her as Books to Katie on Instagram. She is my cohort for whenever we do historical romance.
Yes.
Today we are kind of having a pre-release party and celebration for author Amalie Howard and her upcoming release of the Rakehell of Roth, which releases on Tuesday. So everybody should be pre-ordering that like right now. This is book 2 of the Everly sisters. So welcome, Amalie. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Yay, hanging out with the bees for our very floofy afternoon boozy
Right?
tea.
That's right.
I know. I feel so sophisticated, which is so not my game.
Right? I know. Well, I love your little hat, and I wore my fascinator.
You
And
did.
Katie's got fancy la
Clean hair.
hair top. Ooh.
Smells so good.
I love salon hair. So, Katie, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Amalie, and then we'll get into all the rules and all the fun of our happy hours.
Awesome. All right. So Amalie Howard is the author of several young adult novels critically acclaimed by Kirkus, Publishers Weekly, Boya, and Booklist, including Waterfell, The Almost Girl, and Alpha Goddess, a spring 2014 Kids Indie Next title. Her debut novel, Bloodspell, was a #1 Amazon bestseller and a 17 magazine summer read. The sequel, Bloodcraft, was a Silver Ippy medalist and a Children's Moonbeam Award winner. She is also the co-author of the adult historical romance series, The Lords of Essex, written with her good friend and fellow author, Angie Morgan. As an author of color and a proud supporter of diversity in fiction, her articles on multicultural fiction have appeared in the Portland Book Review and on the popular Diversity in YA blog. She currently resides in Colorado with her husband and 3 children. Woohoo!
Welcome again. Amalie kindly told me that this is like her old bio. I stole it off of Goodreads.
I know. Yeah, it's all right.
I totally stole it off Goodreads, so I apologize.
No, it's totally fine. That's there's an updated one where it's Amalie Howard is the best-selling author of The Beast of Beswick, one of the Oprah magazine's 24 best historicals to read. You kind of like that. Be like, oh, yeah, fancy.
Okay,
no, you're good.
She's way fancier than we gave her credit for, is what everyone should
So
know.
fancy. So fancy. We should play that. That should be our music. What's that song? I'm so fancy.
Yes.
That's it. Yes. I'm a writer, not a singer. Sorry.
It's good. It's good.
Better than I could have done.
So, rules for Boozy Afternoon Tea. You can ask all the questions in the chat. We'll do our best to answer them as we go. In the description of the video are links to all the places to connect with Amalie. If you follow, like, and subscribe, and stick with us till the end, one lucky person will win some swag goodies from the bees, along with I have 5 paperback copies provided to us by Entangled for the Rakehell of Roth to give away. So thank you very much, Entangled Publications, for providing us with those copies. So now let's kick today off in our traditional bees way, and we will start with Amalie. Amalie, what are you drinking today? She has me all worked up. She said it's good.
I have been waiting all afternoon, 1, to make this drink because it's awesome, and 2, because I'm going to make you spit your drinks out right now.
Okay,
so
I'm not drinking right now.
Look at how beautiful this is.
Oh my God.
Do you see it?
So cute.
Wait. I know, isn't it fancy? It's Claire Champagne because it's a fancy glass with raspberries and White Claw.
Yes.
Basic B, fancy glass.
Yes.
Basic B, fancy glass. There you go.
Smart.
Everything in a fancy glass can fool anyone. Let me see how it tastes though.
Yeah, tell us. That's
it's good. Tastes like White Claw. Yeah.
And the fancy glass kind of elevates the White Claw, right?
I know, right? Exactly.
Okay. There you go, ladies. If you want to upgrade your White Claw, just serve it in a champagne flute.
That's right.
Katie, what are you drinking this afternoon?
Well, I didn't step up my game quite like Amalie. I am drinking a White Claw though. And it's in my It's in my pretty flower, peony.
I love that. We did not plan that. Katie and I did not plan that. Okay.
Must be,
But I just White Claws, that's like my go-to. I was gonna say in the afternoon, but also at night as well. So
yeah.
whenever it's appropriate to drink or even inappropriate, this is probably what I'm choosing.
All right, Becky's going to blow us out of the water because she's really drinking a grown-up drink.
She's drinking a cocktail.
I'm totally, but it's like a basic cocktail. Like the husband makes fun of me. I'm drinking a vodka gimlet. I love vodka gimlets.
It sounds fancy.
It's just vodka, simple syrup, and lime juice. Like it's not. And I didn't even put it in a fancy, like it's supposed to be served in a martini glass. I was like, give me the rock tumbler. You can get more liquid in there.
Yeah.
Because I like to
think
keep
it's smart.
You win for the like most adult drink, and I win for the deceit,
fanciest.
the trickery.
Yes.
Correct. So we are going to start out. I'm going to put in the link in the chat. I am going to put the link to Amalie's Instagram. So give her a follow on Instagram. Lots of authors like Instagram. It helps them interact with some of their readers and kind of see, put their stuff out in the world. I love it. I think it really does. It's easier to stalk the authors when I know where all their social media is. So that's
Thank
me.
you.
Okay, so let's just start it off. Amalie, are you a reader of romance?
I love romance. I remember when I was in high school and I would be, you're supposed to be studying, and I did not. I would hide romance books inside my textbooks. We're talking like, when everybody read like Sweet Valley High and stuff growing up. That's what I read. Yeah. I read a lot of like Judith McNaught and Jude Devereaux and Julie Garwood. Those are my favorite, like old school historical romances. Right. And I'm trying to think of like, what was the like really racy romance that everybody used to like talk about? V.C. Andrews.
Oh,
oh my gosh.
Flowers in the Attic.
I know.
So naughty.
Oh man. So naughty.
You couldn't
so
write
racy.
that. You could not publish that right now. Like in today's day and age, you couldn't publish that. I often tell people, they'll throw out a Joanna Lindsay title. They're like, what do you think about this for historical romance? And I'll be like, yeah, you can't really read that today under today's like world, because that was written in the 80s and it's
but still
naughty.
Though that Mallory Anderson series is
I
evergreen.
can
read that. Right?
Yes.
Oh, so good.
Gentle Rogue was the first Joanna Lindsay I ever read. And
really?
That was on the because of Fated Mates, the Sarah McLean's podcast. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to read this one. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the Mallorys are great. It's her, and her Viking series is really good too, but it kind of borderline, there's not a ton of consent. It borderlines closer to like the BDSM type reads. So,
right.
I warn you if you're picking those up, just,
I think I read those, but years ago.
The one I don't
know.
I have a friend that's big on Instagram that does historical fiction is her gig, and it's Literary Illusions, and she shared the cover for a Step Back Saturday of Secret Fire by Joanna Lindsay. And in that book, it's all about aphrodisiacs, like a potion, and there is zero consent. And she was just doing it for the cover. And I'm like, do not read that book. Like, you will be so mad you will throw that book. Do not read that book. She's like, oh, okay. I'm like, it's a great story. It's super sexy, super steamy, but you're going to get hung up on a lot of stuff. So don't read that one.
It's so funny because like I'll go back and read like Judith McNaught books, and there's, questionable stuff in there, but like I remember reading those and just loving them. But it's not really, I think, with great books is that you remember certain scenes. You just remember the feeling that you had when you read them.
Yeah. I actually had a teacher in high school who I was reading Judith McNaught's Almost Heaven. And
I love that one.
She came over and she was like, are you done with this? And I was like, well, yeah, I just finished it in study hall. She's like, could I borrow it? I'm like, yeah, sure. Have it.
I love it.
I'm like, okay. So Amalie, what was your last 5-star read?
Oh my gosh, that is a question. Now I'm like trying to figure out okay, so I've been on this, I get like into these moods. I forgot to ask what kind. Is this like, can I say bad words? No, I'm kidding.
Yes.
Like, okay,
Yes.
good. No,
Yes,
all right,
Katie's on
good.
it. You
I
can
was like,
totally say
what?
bad
I'm like,
words.
what?
Yeah.
Is there permission? So I'm looking at my iPad now, which is like just covered in like all these books because I like to read off of this. But a friend of mine recommended J.J. McAvoy's Ruthless People series, which is like mafia, but the woman in it, the heroine in it, is like a badass. Like she shoots him when they meet, and I'm like, oh my god, I want to be her. Can I be her growing when I grow up? Me. So my husband's like, why are you reading these books about these women beating the crap out of their husbands? I'm like, you be ready. You know. Anyway,
Taking notes, babe.
I really love that one. And then I what's another one? So there's this author called T.A. White. She has this science fiction series. The last book I read was The Threshold of Annihilation. I really enjoyed that. And then I'm trying to see who else. Oh, Catherine Ann Kingsley. Like I read her. She has a circus book series that's really bizarre. It's like, you know, these people trapped in this ghost circus. Like she calls it a murder circus. It's out there, but the writing, she's such a
Sounds
great
kind
writer.
of
It's
good
like
though.
it was good. I really enjoyed that. So
I
that's the last few that I read.
I like the bizarre. So we have a couple people that are on. Haley says White Claw all day long.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Vanta Young says, book besties, I can't do White Claw. Oh my god, you're speaking my language, says Haley. Romance novel, Tabitha tells us romance novels have come so far when it comes to talking about consent. They really have. They really, really
Mm-hmm.
have come a long way. I think it's really even a more current thing. We were trying to timeline it, and I think it was like 2012 kind of seemed to be this switch um, in the books. And then Danielle says it's 100% about the feeling the book leaves you with that uh, makes or breaks a book. And I agree with that. Like if
Yep.
I read a book this week that left me so angry at the male lead. Like, and for them to get back together, I don't think he was forced to like grovel or feel. He needed shot, is what it basically came down to. He needed shot. And, but I still, at the end of the day, I loved the book. I loved her.
Yeah.
She was a badass and I love, and that's one of the things, and we'll get to the Rakehell of Roth and talk about it a little bit because I don't want to ruin it for anybody. But
Yeah. So
that's
so Vanetta from Book Besties is the one who
uh,
recommended Ruthless People to me. So I blame
okay.
her. I blame her for not sleeping for like 7 hours straight of reading murderous women.
That's hilarious. Okay, do you have an all-time favorite read?
Oh man, that is like another question. It depends on what I'm in the mood for. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now. Any of those Judith McNaught books, if I'm like in the mood for historical romance, I'll reread those.
Yeah.
And then I have a special bookshelf with like there's a bunch of different things up there. A lot of fantasy. Oh, I'm very excited for Kristen Kashore's latest book. I forget what the name is. Just came out, but that's like her Graceling continuation. I like those books. I don't know. It varies what I want to read. I like to read new things because I think there's so many talented writers out there. And when I get recommendations, I'll binge everything.
Yes, we know. We do the same thing.
Yeah.
I can totally relate. Like the pretty much everything I read almost most of last year was because of my book club that we kind of just randomly formed because all of us were looking for these really old school Lisa Kleypas novels, like
Yeah.
all of
Oh, I
her
love
old
her.
like, covers and stuff. So we were all like shopping for each other, and then we all got to be good friends and know each other. So there's one in particular, like she's like the angst queen. Like she wants to feel so much that she can't like, there's no words really. So
Right.
anytime I'm just like, I don't know what to read, I'm like, hey, I feel I'm very soft right now and I feel like crying. So can you give me give me a suggestion?
Right.
Like recommendations from other friends has led me to more books that I love than me just being like, this looks good. I
Yeah.
can't trust myself anymore.
That's been
Right.
the awesome thing about this podcast too is we meet once a month for our drunk book club and then we meet
I love that
randomly
name
for
so much.
you
I
are
love that
welcome
name.
anytime you want. We actually have one later tonight at 9. So or 9 o'clock my time. It is basically we gather all together. There's anywhere from 20 to 25 of us and we have voted on the book. It came from a theme that we all voted on the book. So tonight is Bad Mother Effer by Jacinda Wilder.
I love
And
it.
she and her husband Jack are coming to book club to talk about the book with us. And it's so crazy. It's so fun.
It's
But you
awesome.
walk away at the end of the night with 27 new book recs. That's like, everybody's like, crap, there went my book budget. It's gone.
Yeah, Katie, you said it just then, and I should have brought up Lisa, because she's another one, Lisa Kleypas. I will read anything of hers 900 million times. And I literally was showing off yesterday for, you mentioned the Fada Bates podcast, their Derek Craven Day.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a signed copy of Dreaming of You. And she
Do you
said,
really?
to Amalie with love. I was like, oh my God, she loves me.
I love it. Oh, I think that was my first Kleypas that I ever read. And
So
I was
good.
just like, well, where do we go from here?
All her books.
Obviously, all of her books are amazing, but that's almost like gold standard for me, like Broken Hero and
right.
Yeah.
I loved her Hathaway series too. Like I loved I think it happened one autumn was the first one, and I love, was that the Hathaways? No, wait, what's that
that's
series?
the Wallflowers.
That's the Wallflower series. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. I love that first one just because he's like an atypical hero. Like her description of him, like all the heroes are like super tall, and he was like, I think, shorter and stockier, and I was like, oh, I like him. Meanwhile, I'm married to a guy who's 6'5", so
Yeah,
that's fair. So in the chat, I put Amalie's Amazon link. So follow her on Amazon if you aren't. I did not realize like how awesome that is, not just for the author to have that, but also for us as the reader, because you'll be notified when pre-sales go up. You get notified the day of release for books. So if you aren't paying super close attention to when authors have release dates and stuff like that, following them on the platform like Amazon is huge. You get notified like, Amalie has a new book out today, and you're like, yes, go make sure I have gotten the pre-order. So Tabitha says she needs to read some Lisa Kleypas. You and me both,
Yes.
sister. I've read a couple. Wicked and the Wallflower, maybe, I don't know.
That's
Is
Sarah.
that a series? That's Sarah McLean. See, I have not done historical in such a long time that I'm keep getting all these recs, and now we're gonna start adding
I got you.
I know we're gonna add a historical part to the coming podcast episodes, and so now I'm like trying to get back into. But this was the perfect bridge for me to get back into historical romance. This felt like comfort. The Rakehell of Roth. It just felt like comfort for me. It read so well, and I'm excited to talk about it. But we have to still do the rest of my questions, or we'll get lost. And in
she's
about
like,
20
I'll
minutes,
crank that whip on you.
in about 20 minutes, they're all gonna go, okay, Becky, bring it back around. And be like, what? Okay, so what kind of writer are you? Are you a planner or a pantser?
So I started out as a pantser just because, you kind of go where the story goes and let it take you on a journey. But as I started signing more contracts, a lot of publishers wanted synopses. So that meant basically writing out what the synopsis of the book was and figuring out where your characters were going to go. Of course, I don't listen to them half the time, but so I'm kind of like a plantser. So it's like a mashup, a plantser, I guess.
That's fair.
I plot and I don't wear pants, both of them. That is not what a pantser is, you guys.
Vanta says that you were her first historical romance author, and she's in love. So
oh, I love hearing that. Thank you.
So you're now, and we'll get to what you also write but we're mostly focusing on your historical romance. Inspiration for your stories, because like this was, this one, we'll get to him, but he made me mad a lot. But what's your inspiration to write Regency romance?
So I love the time period of the Regency or the Victorian era. I do have a series coming out in that time as well. And I just like that there were all these rules, social rules. Women had different roles, men had their roles. And then, you have these independent heroines who are women have always been subversive throughout history, right? We find ways to break the rules, to jump the rules, to go around the rules. And I liked writing in that time period where there were all these social structures that women had to overcome to be feminist. Because feminism isn't, it's a modern, it's an anachronistic term, but it has existed since the dawn of time, right?
Sure.
As far as inspiration, I mean, I just like reading good books and figuring out, like, having tormented or badass heroes meet up with women who match them or who challenge them, and vice versa also.
Yep, that's
Definitely.
I get that because you did it well. So
Oh,
I'm gonna throw up Amalie's Facebook page. Make sure you follow her on Facebook. Again, it's a great way to interact and know all the things that are coming up for her. Um, so do you have to do a ton of research to write? Like, do you feel like you have to immerse yourself into the Regency vernacular, the thoughts of Regency? Are you taking tea every day at 3?
I do have tea every single day. So yes, but not in a fancy cup, and just a regular mug, and with so much sugar and cream that it's probably not even tea by that point. But um, I think it's important to have some amount of authenticity to the period. So I do like to do research. I like to have real actual people that lived in the period, whether I'm talking about like Lord Byron or the Prince Regent or something in Regency time frames, or Victorian, the Victorian age, or people who ran with the different sets. Like, I mean, I like bringing that to the page so there's more, you feel more immersed. It's not just a story that you can literally pick up and put in a contemporary novel, basically, right? You
Yeah.
want the setting to be rich. You want the vernacular to be rich. You want the interactions to be limited by whatever the rules of the period were, for example.
No, I agree. And I think you did it really well.
Thank you.
I um so I kind of want to fight with sabers and ride horses. Did you get to do that in order to research this book?
So,
I'm just
so,
saying, I kind of want sabers.
um, so I've ridden in the past. My uncle, actually, my mother's brother, was a jockey. He used to race, so I'd visit the stables when I was a kid, and those horses were huge. But
They're
as
big.
far as sword fighting, I actually fenced in college. So
Oh,
I put
That's
some
so
of that.
cool.
Thanks.
that is
So I
awesome.
put some of that kind of like into, the actions, but like most authors, I'll go and research different weapons, because obviously different swords require different types of handling. So I'll Google or go on YouTube to see a demonstration, just so I'm not like, oh yeah, she picked up a broadsword with one hand. That's never happening. That thing weighs like 900 pounds.
Right.
For example.
For example, okay, so I am going to throw up
You're
Amalie's
gonna throw up?
Twitter.
What?
No,
I know.
not
Every
yet.
time she says that, I just think about barfing.
I'm not a barfer.
What kind of giblet are you
I'm
drinking?
not a barfer. That is like my claim to fame. It takes a lot. Like, we're talking the big jug of Tito's, like a good third of it that I drink all by myself. And
Listen,
then I
at
have,
least she's drinking Tito's, so
right?
you're good.
I like
Colorado
the
vodka.
higher quality vodka. So, Nikki says it's the thought that counts for tea. Like, the fact that
Yeah.
it actually had tea in it. It doesn't matter what else is in it. It's the thought
Right. All
of the
Yes.
right.
tea.
All right.
So I put up Amalie's Twitter handle. If you're on Twitter, you should give her a follow. She's very nice and shares all of my craziness. So thank you. Thank you for all that. Okay, so we are now going to talk about the Rakehell of Roth. We promise not to spoil it. It is beautiful. So this book releases on Tuesday coming up here. So that's what,
Yay.
like 3 days from
3 days.
now? 3
Yep.
days. You can pre-order your copy today on all platforms. You're going to want to have Isabel and Winter at your fingertips first thing when you wake up Tuesday morning. So we will start with Winter Vance, who is the Rakehell of Roth. He's actually the Viscount or Viscount of Roth, and
He's Marquez.
Marquez. Oh, I'm sorry. He's a Marquez.
Yeah, I know.
Uh,
Come on.
what
There's
is
like
wrong?
9 different levels of like the
Everybody.
peerage.
Can't
And I'm
keep it
gonna
straight.
wait. You're gonna need to know all of that when we play my game here in a little bit.
Oh boy.
Anyway, he made me mad. He was not an easy man to love. He kind of yeah. So do you like writing that type of guy that is a little more
Well,
challenging to love?
I think the thing is, that redemption arc is always something that's nice, right? You don't want to,
Right.
I mean, you want to have somebody that changes or find someone that, because I always have this thing that you can't change someone who isn't ready to be changed, right? Because I dated a guy for like a really long time and he was a terrible person. We broke up like 7 times and I'm like, I don't even understand what I'm doing. And my best friend at the time, because you have the best friend Clarissa in this book is like, told me basically she's done supporting me, not in a bad way, but in a kind of tough love kind of way. She's like, you can't keep doing this to yourself. And he wasn't ready to change. So, we broke up, whatever. But I feel like even if it's a woman as well, who meets somebody that, makes them grow in some way. Like I love reading that kind of story arc, especially like a character arc. And I do like the asshole men who kind of remain still alpha holes at the end, but they're lovable alpha holes now.
He is a lovable alpha hole, but you spend some time like seriously contemplating a nice throat punch for him.
Oh
You're
yeah.
like, dude.
Yep, you gotta feel it. You gotta want to like hurt him. Be like, I'm gonna punch you.
Right? I just think that adds to the beauty of the story in the end because, he's hard to love, but when you finally see the climax of the story and that movement forward in their relationship, then you're like, okay.
I really feel that Becky should have done a wink wink when she said climax.
Probably. I know, climax. I was like,
Stop.
Well,
okay,
and
somebody. Oh wait, go ahead, Katie.
I was just gonna say that's what one of my friends, Gigi, likes to call them emotionally constipated, and that's like a flaw. I don't want to say flaw. That's a trait of a lot of alpha holes, at least that in my opinion that I've read. They're just kind of like they know it's there, but they're not gonna squeeze out that love.
Yeah, exactly. They're so tortured. I love those tortured heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So Tabitha wants to know, how do you choose the names for your characters?
I don't know. They just come to me, or I'll look up at different baby websites. Sometimes I'll go to like the 1800s name list, and you can look them up by country, just to find one that's authentic to that time period, because you don't want to have like I don't know, Jackson with 2 X's that would not have like existed, you know what I mean? Back then. So yeah, kind of try to be authentic, but also a little different because not everybody wants to be Edward, right? Or
or George.
Yeah.
A Bad Wallflower says, yes, can't wait. Reforming the worst rakes. And someone else said reformed rakes make the best husbands.
The best husbands.
They kind of do,
Well, if they get the paddle, they do.
Right? Okay, so let's talk about Isabel. She kind of like spanks him a little bit. And in my review that I put up on Goodreads and on our website, I was like, she's kind of a boss bitch. Like, she just knows what she's going for and she goes. And I loved that.
Like, one of my favorite things about writing Isabel is like, I just wanted to give this girl who had all these roses in her eyes and these ideals of like what a perfect marriage should be and a perfect husband should look like, and then they get squashed, and then all of a sudden she realizes that what life isn't like this bed of roses that she imagined, and it really drives her agency. And then she meets someone like Clarissa, who's her best friend, who's completely irreverent and basically teaches her, if you want something, you got to figure out how to go after it. And she like balances her quite a bit. But I really love the fact that Isabel she grew into that badass, like her badassery. She kind of like matured into that, which I really loved about her. I love the agency behind her. And I love the fact that she was married and she was committed and she wanted to go win her husband. you know?
Yeah. And it wasn't an overnight development, and she knew going to win her husband that it was going to be an uphill battle. But
Oh,
she
for sure.
felt that she had the confidence in herself to do it. And just from the difference between chapter 1 to like chapter 6 for her, she had this huge amount of growth. And I really loved that. I love that kind of growth in a character. And why it was just in 6 chapters, it wasn't overnight. It was several years of reading of all the scandals that Winter was
Right.
attached to, and things that his name was being associated with, that caused her to finally be like, okay, I am claiming my husband. He is mine.
Yep.
I'm going to go get him. And I really
Right.
liked that. I
I think that
really
the I thank you. I think the biggest thing to also mention is that there's no cheating. I saw that people were like, "Oh, it was when they were apart. Was there cheating?" I'm like, there will never be any cheating ever in any of my books because
Yeah.
I'll murder my husband if he like no. They'll be
Same.
like yeah.
Same.
Same.
Done.
So I am going to put in the comments, not throw up in the chat, but put in the comments. It's
I
the
love
Drink
it.
with the Bee Patreon. Because we have Patreon, we are able to offer things like our drunk book club and happy hours and stuff like that. We are relatively new on the Scene podcast. So we only have about 25 Patreons, but they're amazing. And we often gather several times a month to book chat. So, like, if you love romance, you should totally come join us just to hang out with us for Drunk Book Club, because it's a lot of fun. Okay, so now we're going to play a game. And I went searching on the Google, and I came up with a quiz
Google.
of the Victorians had rules of etiquette for nearly every situation. Could you have survived an upper class English Victorian society? This is a quiz to find out if you can. So this is for you and Katie.
Ooh, all right.
Okay, here we go. So question 1, and
Wait, hang on,
you guys,
hang on.
okay,
Let me
just
just,
gonna
let me
have to
just,
get
no, I'm kidding.
some
Okay.
courage.
That was good. I'm just gonna drink it all.
You guys are welcome to answer in the chat. Okay, so you have a Victorian gentleman walking with a lady. You come to a flight of stairs. How do you proceed up the stairs? You, as the gentleman, walk behind the lady. You wait until she is safely at the top and then go up the stairs. You walk next to the lady. You go in front of the lady.
I look up her skirts when she's going up the stairs.
Okay, so you
got her ass.
Right. I look at those sexy ankles in those stockings. Wink,
So
wink.
you're walking behind the lady then, right?
I would be. What she? Oh no! Gosh, she almost gave it away.
I almost did. Are you
I
walking
would walk
next to her?
Safely next to her or in front of her?
Well, she has a lot of skirts, and you wouldn't walk in front, so I'd walk behind. Yeah, that's probably wrong.
I was gonna say next to, and make sure she doesn't fall like I did the other day.
So
No.
when I answered it, because I had to answer the quiz in order to, and just so you know, my score on this quiz was a 2 out of 10. So
I feel really judged right now. Like,
Same.
what?
So the correct answer is you go in front of the lady. Men always go ahead of the lady, and going up the stairs and going down the stairs, he will follow her.
That's some douchery right there. Yeah, I'll go up and you bring your heavy skirts up behind me.
Right?
Damn.
Okay. So you are a Victorian gentleman walking with a lady. You enter a carriage with her. Which seat do you take? The seat facing forward? The seat facing backwards? Let the lady choose which seat she wants and take whatever is left, or you sit in front with the coachman.
Katie, you go. So I can pretend that I know.
I guess maybe the gentleman would be facing forward.
That's what I would have said too, because he's a jerk, and he would say, "I'll sit facing
Right?
forward. You suffer."
Yeah, like he's facing the front, like a normal seat.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
It is the seat facing backwards. A gentleman is
That's
not
what
allowed.
I said. I totally said that. I didn't say that. Oh my God, I'm such a liar.
The gentleman is not allowed to sit next to the lady unless he is
No.
her husband, brother, father, or son. Okay,
Well, shit.
that's some shit.
All right, this game is awful.
It's the
Well, I
worst.
also knew that there was no way I would have ever been considered a lady back then. I'm living for all these books where the ladies are like running their own like, gaming hell, or they've got their own like den of iniquity.
Yep.
That's my shit right there.
Dude, and we would be driving the coach. We'd be like
I'm a
racing
scullery
that
maid,
shit.
people.
Diddly dang right.
I'm
I'm throwing back spirits.
All right.
Okay.
What is there a question about sex on there? Ask that. No, I'm kidding.
The lady is always introduced to the gentleman. True or false? The lady is always introduced to the gentleman. True or false?
He has to be introduced to her.
Yeah.
So the lady. So the question is, the lady is introduced to the gentleman. So you're saying the gentleman is then introduced to the lady?
The gentleman has to be introduced first.
Yeah, so I guess false.
So it is false. The gentleman is always introduced to the lady according to...
She can't even look at him.
Yeah.
Or dance with him or whatever.
The gentleman's honor to meet her, not the other way around. That's damn right. You are
yes,
honored
give
to
me your
meet
fist bump, lady. Katie, give it to me.
There you go,
yeah.
y'all. You got it.
All right.
Okay, Victorian ladies developed their own silent way of flirting with their fans.
Yes.
Which many young men learned quickly. What did it mean if a lady twirled her fan in her right hand? 1, I love you. 2, I love another. 3, kiss me. Or 4, I wish to speak with you.
That ranges from like the most innocent. No, none of that's innocent.
It's all naughty.
I read about all the fan crap.
So did I.
I cannot remember. I don't know. I don't know.
These questions are like cutting my legs off at the knees. I didn't like it.
Okay, well,
I would say it means
be a better Victorian writer.
Okay, can we like have a 50-50?
Phone a friend
who wants to be a millionaire.
Sure.
No, for her to reduce it to 2.
Okay, I'll reduce it to 2. It's either
all right.
I wish to speak with you or I love another.
I wish to speak with you.
I'm gonna go with that
too.
What
I love another. There were many signals that the young ladies could give, allowing them to send the right message to a young man. Placing the handle on her lips meant kiss me.
Kiss me. Why did you say that one? I knew that one.
Drawing it across her cheek meant I love you. And touching tips with fingers meant I wish to speak with you.
All right.
So like if you touch the tip. I'm just saying,
I think I had a story where she, because I studied the language of the fans, and some really great websites that tell you like what each and it's long. It can go, as Katie said, it can range quite widely. But there's one like where she was like, "How do I tell him that I want to take his pants off right now?" And she's like, "Is it just dragging it all the way down her dress?" I'm like, I don't think that sign existed. It was just hilarious.
It can in your book.
Oh yeah, it's there.
You, a man, are walking alone on the street and you meet a lady whom you know well. She wants to talk with you. What is the proper etiquette in this situation? Ignore her. It's not proper to speak to a lady on the street. 2, she should turn and walk with you since she is the one who wishes to talk. 3, turn and walk with her while you talk. Or 4, stop where you are, stand there until the conversation is finished.
Where's her chaperone?
Dudes? I know, and where are the dudes?
They're just on the street walking. Like
no, but are we a guy or we're a guy?
We're
the
man.
Okay.
You're the man. So do you ignore her? Make her turn and walk with you? You turn and walk with her? Or you stop where you are and chit chat?
I'm gonna let Katie answer this because she looks like she's thinking, and I can't take the rejection of being wrong again.
I feel like
She's
you
never
know,
coming back, Katie. She's
I
gonna be like,
I know.
she's gonna be like, Ricky, no.
What kind of punishment is this?
I feel like it would be to. I mean, ignore her seems so harsh, and an actual gentleman, like not just like by society standards, but like a good dude wouldn't just leave her alone on a street. So it feels like maybe he should go walk with her.
So wait, how does she know him? Is she a friend?
It just says who they know well. They know well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well then he would definitely walk with her. I agree with Katie.
Yep, that's the right answer. That's one of the two I got right.
Yeah. That's what? One of the two I've gotten right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now imagine you are a Victorian lady. Which of these are you not allowed to wear in the morning? Okay. 1, a bonnet. 2, diamonds or pearls. 3, white gloves. 4, curls in your hair.
Diamonds and pearls? That seems like a nighttime thing.
Is that what we're going with? Diamonds and pearls? Yes, that is the right answer. Diamonds and pearls. So now I'm going to go back and reread like every romance novel and be like, they never had them wearing diamonds and pearls in the morning. Diamonds and
Well,
pearls.
it depends on the woman, right?
Right?
I mean, it depends on.
I mean, if I'm a rich widow, I'm gonna wear that shit always.
Right?
Okay?
You could bathe in pearls, man.
Hell yeah.
Take some diamonds and scrub it with the soap. It's like, no.
Diamonds and pearls were considered evening wear and not suitable for morning. Remember, Victorian women changed their clothes numerous times during the day. I have to say, I'm grateful not to be a Victorian woman because I like to change my clothes once a day. I pretty much stay in my pajamas all day. But I'm lucky.
Well, that's been the last year, you know. That's been the last year. I mean, ask the people listening if I'm even wearing pants. You know,
It's quarantine.
That should be the question. Is Amalie wearing jeans? Is Amalie wearing a skirt? Is Amalie wearing sweatpants? Or is Amalie wearing no pants?
Pants.
Like that should be the question.
Okay, so next question. We got 3 more to go, ladies. We can do this.
She's murdering us.
4 more to go. What criteria makes it unsuitable for a lady to be without a chaperone and the companion of a man? Unmarried and under 35, unmarried and under 25, unmarried and under 30, or unmarried no matter what her age. She can't be with a gentleman.
Alone?
Unmarried.
Just unmarried, she can't be. It is unmarried and under 30. She was not allowed to walk alone without a chaperone, with the exception of early morning walks in the park.
I suppose if she was a spinster, but she'd still have to have a chaperone, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Because even if she was in her 30s, so even if she was in her 30s, she could be forced to marry someone if they were in a compromising situation.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take exception with this test. I'm going to
beat
yell
them.
at the creator. Okay. So number 8, what is the maximum number of dances that a lady can dance with the same man? 5, 2, 3, or 4?
I think 2 safely, 3 you're like, that's bad form.
Yeah, 3 you're like, that's the threshold. Like
so
you're pushing
it's
it.
3. The answer is 3. At some balls, each of the ladies have a little card with all the dances listed on it. And asking for a particular dance from a lady, the gentleman would write his name on the desired slot on the card so that they would both remember which dance he was promised. But 3 was the threshold.
That's the bad news. Yeah.
Right? I thought it was 2 too. Lots of people are
No, he
2
can,
in the chat.
No, I said he can dance 2. 2 is the max. You can't do any more than that. Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah. Social ranking was very important during the Victorian era. Which of these is the correct order from highest to lowest rank? So the first is Viscount, Knights, Duke, Barons. That's option 1. Option 2 is Duke, Viscount, Barons, Knights. Third option is Knights, Dukes, Barons, Viscount. Which is the correct way?
2.
It is. Yes, correct. That's the other one that I got right. in this quiz.
Duke. That's easy.
I know,
Um,
right? Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who the author was. There was an author, Sally Mackenzie. She wrote a series called The Naked Duke, The Naked Marquez. Have you, as any Naked Baron? And they all came out in order, and that's how I learned the correct order for
Bridgerton.
it's
That's what got it for me.
oh yeah. If you're looking for a funny, almost historical rom-com, I highly recommend Sally Mackenzie. She has a couple of great series. Okay, next one. You are a lady and you are making your morning calls to inform the lady of the house that you are there. You send your footman in with calling cards. How many do you send in? 2 of your own and 1 of your husband's, 1 of your own and 2 of your husband's, 1 of your own and 1 of your husband's, only 1 of your own, your husband is not with you.
One of my own.
Yeah,
if he's
that's
not
what
with
I
me.
would say. I don't know if I would send my husband's, and why would I even have his card? That's so weird.
Okay, so it is 1 of your own and 2 of your husband's. Your
Jesus.
calling cards would go to the lady of the house, as did 1 of your husband's. Your husband's other card would go to the master of the house.
I did not know that.
No,
Okay,
I did not
well,
know that either.
I didn't know it either. I was totally wrong. I just thought if I'm the only one there, then, you know.
And especially if he's titled and I'm married to him, like obviously I'm the
No, you just made that up. You psycho. You put that you're the Duchess of White Claw in there.
Right?
That's right. Damn right I'm the Duchess of White Claw.
You are the Duchess of White Claw. In the chat, I put the link to Amalie's website. Amalie, do you have a newsletter? And all
I
that kind
do.
of good gravy?
Yep, it's on my website under contact newsletter.
Okay.
So
Awesome. Everybody should sign up for her newsletter so that you can know all the things that are coming your way. So one of the things that I thought was really cool as I was researching to have you come join us, you also write YA fiction, mostly fantasy. And so tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I started out writing young adult science fiction and fantasy. My first book was Bloodspell, which is witches and vampires and forbidden love and epic war and all that stuff. So like, when the Twilight sort of wave was happening, that was kind of like the craze. But I've always loved witches and vampires. That was like my go-to for Halloween costumes growing up. I even had porcelain fangs made, like custom fangs.
That's
Dang,
like
Who is
next
this
level.
person? I know,
That's like
right?
next
And also,
level.
yeah, like I watched like The Craft, and I could like do like all these spells. I'm just kidding, but not really kidding.
I'm like she's in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
She's not
totally in
kidding.
it. Totally in it. And then I had another series that was like it's actually right behind me, Oceanborn. That was the original cover with Harlequin Teen. Was Underwater Dragons. So it was like my twist on mermaids. And then I had another series that was like a Girl Terminator and parallel universes. So that was more science fiction. That's called Almost Girl. And lastly, I had another series called Alpha Goddess that was about East Indian mythology. So the goddesses of the Hindu goddesses.
That sounds amazing.
That sounds so cool.
I have a fantasy reader in my house. My girl child is a big fantasy reader, so we are going to have to check those out. If anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them up in the chat. So what is your next problem? Yes, I said throw them up in the chat. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Holy goodness. I'm so sorry. So Amalie, what's next? So the Rakehell of Roth comes out on Tuesday. And then is there a book 3 for because there's only 2 sisters in the book.
Yeah. So the series title is went from the Everly Sisters because we weren't sure if we were going to have more or not to the Regency Rogue series. So there is an option book, but I have like other contracts I'm trying to just navigate. So one isn't announced yet, and then I have a contract with Source Books that's like an interracial historical that's coming out. The first book is The Princess Stakes, and that'll be out in June. And then the second book is Rules for Heiresses, which comes out in October.
Ooh,
and
awesome.
The first one, the heroine's a biracial heroine. So it's kind of like me because I'm biracial. And The second one, the hero is the person of color.
That's
Awesome.
awesome. Katie's in the midst of doing, because it's Black History Month. You're doing, she's doing a readathon that's all for people of color. But all the authors are people of color.
Awesome.
Yes.
And I'm so happy to see that market growing, that authors of color are, and it's taking too damn long. I hate it. It makes me mad, but they're finally getting their dues. And I'm trying to do the best I can to make sure that I'm, variety of reading. I just read Rebecca Witherspoon, and she writes contemporary. I read her
Yep.
Cowboy series. She's amazing. And Jodie Slaughter is going to be, we're recording an episode with her tomorrow night. She's pretty
Cool.
awesome. So I'm excited
I
for
just
you
feel
that you
like
get
it,
to
yeah.
write people of color.
I just feel like it's important to have fiction represent the diversity of the world we live in, whether, whatever marginalized group you're writing from, that it's not completely reflective of the default mainstream. I think it's important.
Yeah, I do too. I think
Absolutely.
it is important. And I want to give, as I want to read them, and I want everybody else to read them. I want them to have just as much, opportunity to be out there in the world as everything. Because, we're all different.
Yeah,
yes. Absolutely. Plus, I mean, it broadens your horizon, not only as like a reader, but as a human, because your life is only your story. And to think that you couldn't possibly understand or relate or read or anything that's different is just so like closed-minded and narrow that, I just feel like, especially doing like this Black author readathon, because I'm reading authors that I've read 1,000 times before, Alyssa Cole, Beverly Jenkins, things like that. But it's also like kind of opening up my eyes to genres I don't typically read, and, not necessarily that I look to relate to anything, because that's not my story. I just want to read good books. And that's what, I feel like something like this is allowing a lot of people to do. And just kind of broadening your horizons. Like that's what you have to go into it with, and not, because also I read historical romance. I can't relate to that shit either. We just learned that we wouldn't survive.
Right. Exactly. I know.
Like, what about that is relatable?
What you're talking about, Katie. You're not going to survive. I will be fine. I will be fine with my wrong answers and my man
Speaking
to take
for
care
myself.
of me. No kidding. I agree with you. And actually, I think one of the people in the chat earlier mentioned that it's about connection. It's about reading a story that makes you feel something.
Yeah.
And the color of the character's skin, like it should like elevate that. It should make that broader, like, but you as a human being, and you said it, Katie, you're going to connect with something in that story,
Absolutely.
And I mean, even if you look at own voices, like my background is Indian, Middle Eastern, and Chinese. Like there's like all kinds of mixes in there, but I grew up in the Caribbean, which is like a British colony until like, I think it was, I'm going to get the year wrong, 1962, I want to say, but maybe I was wrong.
Yeah, it was like the 60s.
I'll have to look it up.
It was the 60s for that one. Yeah.
Well, and I was like, no, I was going to say, like, that makes my experience different to somebody who might have grown up in the United States, who might have grown up in India, who might have grown up in England. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, it has you bring a whole different perspective into the world, which I think is amazing. And it adds culture, and, I'm obsessed with other people's cultures. And I think that's part of the love of historical romance, is that culture, what they felt was dignified and what was socially acceptable compared to now. I love that part of it. And that's part of, I recently read Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors. And it's
by Sonali.
Yes.
Sonali.
Sonali. Yeah, I love her. She is rewriting like Jane Austen stories, but the women are the more elevated character in the book instead of the men, but with the Indian culture. And those books are so good. If you haven't read them, I highly recommend them. They're very well done. So, and I don't often like Pride and Prejudice rewrites because I'm slightly a purist to that one story. I love Jane Austen. I'm obsessed. I'm sorry. Anyway.
I have a whole Jane Austen book up there somewhere too.
My favorite is Persuasion. I love it. Anyway, it's my thing. Okay, so if you are still watching along, go ahead and let us know that you're here so that I can jot your names down. And like I said, we have 5 copies of of the
The
Rakehell
of Roth.
And then I have my girl child made a beautiful book sleeve that she sewed
So
for
nice.
us.
That's so beautiful.
It's pretty.
And then a coffee cup wrap so that you don't have to like use paper. And then I have a Drinks with the Bees shot glass. It has a bee etched on it because we like our shots, we like our drinks. So if you're still here, tell us a hi, or if you have questions, feel free to ask. Susie wants to know what's your favorite to write? Historical, science fiction, young adult? Do you have a favorite that you like to write, Amalie?
I think right now I really love writing historical just because I love the romance and it's adult. It's like my first foray. I mean, I wrote 7 books together with Angie, and that's historical romance. But I just love and being able to write. I never thought after writing YA that I'd be able to write all these sex scenes, but it's so fun.
They were
It's
just pent
awesome.
up waiting to be released.
I know. I'm telling you, like just burst out of me like a volcano. I'm kidding. But not really.
Sounds like a wine, Amalie.
I do like writing, fantasy and young adult. And, I did write a middle grade that maybe I'll go on submission for at some point. That's all fantasy. Because I like that whole idea of exploring like, magic and different worlds and stuff like that, cultural magic, stuff like that.
I love that. Okay, so when you write your sex scenes, because I have to ask this, like, do you have to be in the mood? Do you have any research things that you do? Like, we have one author that is a friend of the podcast that she has reference Barbies that she puts into position so she can describe it accurately.
Love it. Oh, funny.
She's adorable. I love it. It's Katie Roberts. Do you know Kate? She writes anti-heroes and lots of sexy taboo books, sexy taboo books. And she just did a TikTok earlier today that she dropped where an author was talking about how she was struggling writing like where hands were supposed to be, and Katie edited with her Barbies and was like, get Barbies, they move. And so do you have like reference Barbies?
Now I'm gonna tell like my daughter that the bees recommended that I go repurpose her Barbies. She's gonna be like, "What, Mom? Don't touch my dolls." And besides, Ken is so not anatomically correct. Okay, there's something wrong with Ken. I'm kidding. I just kind of. Well, I read a lot, and sometimes you kind of get like. You see people who do sex scenes well. It's like watching like even movies and stuff, and it might kind of send something off in your brain. Obviously, yeah. I mean, I have 3 children, so they had to come here somehow. But you kind of wait, what? Like me getting all, oh look, something's wrong with my cheeks. They're blooming. Yeah, I mean, inspiration. You just kind of you read good books and you see other authors who do it really well, and you get inspired by that, right? Everything, like in anything with writing, you can't like have, say, like a bunch of dialogue in the middle of a sex scene, or you can't have like 5 pages of narration. It's not going to be like, oh, this is so boring. He put his hand here, and then this finger went here, and then this face went here. I mean, that's boring, right? You got to layer it in and make it sort of like watching a movie, I try to say. And I do that even in my young adult books, not with sex, just with the scenes where it's like, how do you make it really immersive and flowy to the reader, right?
Yeah. Well, and there's a slow burn aspect to this book, but when they do get there, it was pretty
steamy. Girl, you guys, I'm editing a book right now that I wrote, and I read this scene and I had to go tell my husband, I'm like, I feel like I was blacked out when I was writing this scene because it's so freaking good. And I'm like, who am I? When did I write this? Was I drunk?
Like, how do I get that magic back?
I know, like what happened? Oh man. Yeah, no, it's just, yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, Amalie, give me 5 numbers between
5
1 and
numbers.
10. Between 1 and
Okay.
10. 5 numbers between 1 and 10.
2, 5, 3, 7, and 1.
Okay. So I am going to put in the chat our email address, which is thebees@bookcaseandcoffee.com. And if I announce you as a winner, just email me your address and I will forward those addresses on to Entangled in order for you to get your copy of the Rakehell of Roth. So I have A Bad Flower, Demarius, Danielle, Nikki, and Tabitha. All of you won a copy of the Rakehell of Roth, so make sure you email me, thebees@bookcaseandcoffee.com. And then I have Haley as the winner of the book sleeve and the coffee wrap and the shot glass. So Haley, if you will send me an email with your address, I will get that out to you this week. So
Woohoo!
does anybody
Yeah.
have any follow-up questions for Amalie or for me and Katie? Because, our drinks are finished. So now it's like we either have to go to round 2 or I don't know.
I know, right?
Anyway, so also if you can find our podcast Drinks with the Bees on all platforms. We also twice a week drop our quick shots of romance, which are our review episodes right here on YouTube. So make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that we can so you can know when we also go live. We'll be live again next Friday night with Lexi Blake and the relaunch of her Masters and Mercenary series. It's a security force that dabbles in the BDSM world. So super sexy. Look at Katie. She's like, nice. Yes.
That's a
I will
lot
be-
of things.
That
I
is a
like
lot
that
of
stat.
things.
Listen, I was researching something for Victorian. They were like very filthy in the Victorian period. They also had their horses that you got strapped to and stuff, like
Yeah.
wooden horses, and gotten the shit flogged out of you, Anyway.
Right? Treat me like
People like to get freaky.
Exactly.
You can break me kind of stuff.
But that series, I think I've read that. It's awesome.
Lexi Blake, yeah. She's
Mhm.
this is the second generation, so these are the children of her first group of that series. And I think the first series had like 11 books. So she's relaunching it. The
Cool.
first book is called Submission Impossible. So I read it this morning. Super sexy. So it'll be great fun. Make sure if you were one of our winners, you email me thebees@bookcaseandcoffee.com and we will get that stuff out to you. Amalie, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for tea.
Thank you for
It
having
was
me.
delightful. You are welcome back anytime. We are happy to have you. So
Thank you. Thank you
thank
so much for
you.
having me. It was super fun. I'm still feeling kind of like shaky after those questions. Now I gotta go like learn some shit. I gotta go like I have to study.
That's fair. That's fair. Cheers, everyone. We'll see you next time.